Hey guys, just a quick tutorial on how to make Timefall 2's time travel effect here in Unity. You can start by downloading the starter project files, or just yoink my code if you want, link is in the description. Alright, once you open Unity, you want to go down to the assets folder, go to scenes, and then click the sample scenes. This will open up the scene that I have prepared for this. Looking at the Unity hierarchy, I have two empty game objects called past and present. These hold the blue and red cubes respectively, which will be used to demonstrate the time travel effect. What we are wanting to do is have only one of these game objects visible at a time. We need to make a button for our player to press to be able to switch between the two layers in game. So go to our project panel, scripts, right click and do create new C# script. Call it time travel and open it up in Visual Studio. We are going to need to create references to two game objects to be able to turn off the past and present objects. So to do this, we use serialize field, game object, and create two variables called present and past. This allows us to easily reference these two game objects. We are also going to need a boolean to keep track of which objects should be currently visible. We are going to set this to true, so the present layer should be visible first. Then, in our start method, we will make it so only one of the two layers is visible when the game starts. This is useful so you don't have to constantly remember to only have one layer visible in your Unity hierarchy before you start the game. We do this by using present.setActive, and it will take in a boolean argument of true or false. We are going to want to use the boolean value we created above. We also do the same thing for our past, taking in the negative boolean this time. So when present is true, past will be false. Then in our update method, we will get the player input to be able to perform the effect. Let's just use the left mouse click for simplicity's sake. We do if input.get button down, fire 1, which refers to left mouse click. When the player clicks mouse 1, we are going to want to invert the present and past's visibilities. We do this by doing present.setActive, and this time we do the invert of itself.activeSelf. This will invert its visibility, and we can do the same thing for past. Save the script, and inside Unity, go to our player controller and drag and drop the time travel script onto it. We then also need to drag and drop our past and present game objects into our script. Once all of that is done, we are able to press play on our game and see if the effect works. There we go, we only have the blue cubes and these particles, and when we click mouse 1, it'll switch the layers. One of the issues we have right now though is that the player can just spam the effect. So let's go back into our script and fix that issue. We're going to want to create a limit to how often the player can call this effect. For this, we need to create two more float variables called time_to_effect, initialized to 0, and a serialized field of effect rate per second, initialized to say 2. This allows the player to call this effect twice every second. We then go to our update method, and in our if statement, we use and time.time is greater or equal to time_to_effect. Next below that, we do time_to_effect is equal to time.time plus 1 divided by effect rate per second. What this does is makes it so that if the player is spamming mouse 1, it will not do the effect unless enough time has passed. How much time? It depends on our effect rate per seconds that we set. For here, we set it to 2, so the player is allowed to do the effect twice per second, or every 0.5 seconds he was allowed. We can then go back to our game and press play. Now, if we try to spam mouse 1, it will not play the effect so quickly. We can go into our editor while the game is playing and change the value to something say 1 to make this effect more obvious. The last thing we are going to want to do is play an effect when changing environments. To do this, we will be using post-processing. In our hierarchy, right-click, go to Volume, Global Volume. Go to the profile and select New. We are able to add post-processes by doing Add Override, then selecting our filters. We are going to be wanting to add color adjustments, setting the post-exposure to 1, add a white balance, change the temperature to -10 and tint to 10, go to lens distortion, intensity to -0.3, X multiplier to 0.4, and the scale to 1.18. The last thing we will add is chromatic aberration and set it to 0.466. If we then go to the weight tab and slide it, we will be able to see the difference between our game with and without the post-processing. So this post-processing layer should only be enabled when we are doing the effect. So let's go back to the script and write the logic for that there. In the top of the file, use Unity engine.rendering. This will enable us to use the volume component. Create a serialized field volume called effect volume, as well as a serialized field float called transition time, and initialize it to 2. This will be the time between transitions. Now in the start method, do effect volume.wait is equal to 0. This will make it so that the post-processing is not enabled when the game starts. Now at the bottom of our update method, inside the if statement, write effect volume.wait is equal to 1. This will turn on our post-processing. Then we are going to use invoke, which will call a method after a delay has occurred. Use invoke turn off effect volume in quotation marks, comma, transition time. Copy the turn off effect volume name, and we're going to create a method out of it. Inside of it, do effect volume.wait is equal to 0. Save it, and now back inside Unity, we will reference our volume. Create another inspector tab by clicking the hamburger menu on the right side of the projects panel. Go to Add tab, and then Inspector. Click on the global volume, then press Lock on the inspector we just created. Now click on the player. Inside the time travel script, drag and drop the value component. We are now able to play the game, and your effect should now be visible. Adjust the transition time to 0.2 to have a more realistic feel. That's all there is for this tutorial. Please let me know in the comments down below what type of tutorial you guys would like next. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing.